Greetings from wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to yet another episode of The Explainer. Here we dissect stories shaping the headlines and how they influence your daily life. And on today's episode, we dissect President William Ruto's Singapore dream and the two funds that are meant to finance it. So over the months, we've had President William Ruto repeatedly saying that his main aim is to transform Kenya to Singapore, which technically we've dubbed it the Singapore dream. So as we all understand, ambition needs money. So where are the funds ambazo, the funds that are supposed to be used to fund the whole Singapore dream? The question is, where will they be found? Ama hizo pesa ziko wapi?
Next year, we should be able to put together the resources that will raise for us the first two and a half trillion next year. I'm not talking about 5 years. I'm not talking about 3 years. I'm talking about next year.
President William Ruto announced that there will be the formation of two funds, that is the Infrastructure Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund. So we first break down the Infrastructure Fund.
We will establish the National Infrastructure Fund, whose architecture will be underpinned by the reforms in the Government-Owned Enterprises Bill passed by this August House that I will sign into law tomorrow.
The Infrastructure Fund was established as a limited liability company solely owned by the National Treasury. So that is a fund where the government itatafuta pesa from privatization proceeds, budget allocation, and private and public partnerships. So they will get the money, put them in one fund, that is the National Infrastructure Fund. So the proceeds, the funds that will be there, they will be used for development in the country, which includes agriculture, energy production, highways, and roads. So in the whole infrastructure development, nikumanisha, they will construct 50 dams, 100 mini dams, 2,000 kilometers of highways, 25,000 of kilometers of tarmac roads. And actually, where hiyo ni kumaanisha they will add up to agriculture kwa sababu more areas of land they will be irrigated, which means more food for Kenya, and also we can export food. So the infrastructure fund, it is set to prioritize projects ambazo they can attract investors, ama projects where Kenya is able to get proceeds as investors invest in them. So according to Finance CS John Mbadi,
take out of our budget commercially viable and leave projects, infrastructure projects that are not commercially viable to continue enjoying budgetary provision. This fund is not meant to cure inequalities in our regions. This fund is supposed to be used to take out of our budget commercially viable infrastructure projects.
This is because questions had arose about when you say the infrastructure fund itatumika only to fast track development for projects that can bring Kenya money. What about the other areas zenye their projects technically their purpose is to bring around accessibility or to benefit the common mwananchi? So Mbadi clarified that it will not be a source of equity for all parts of the country. So the second one, it is the Sovereign Wealth Fund. So according to President William Ruto,
we must ensure future generations are not left poorer. That is why, alongside the National Infrastructure Fund, we will establish the Sovereign Wealth Fund to give full effect to the constitutional principle of intergenerational equity.
So President William Ruto keeps referring back to Singapore. This is because Singapore, they have had a wealth fund called the Singapore's Temasek. Australia, they've had the Australia's Future Fund, and United Emirates wamekuwa na the United Emirates Mubadala. This means this is like a saving where the country will be saving for future generations. I don't know how possible that is in our country, but anyway, that is President William Ruto's dream of making Kenya's economy first world by the year 2025. But kumekuwa na a hitch kidogo. In January, the High Court halt the formation of the infrastructure fund. This is because there was a case that was filed by 2 residents from Nakuru waki-question how viable the infrastructure fund is in Kenya, or rather how are we sure itakuwa transparent na actually the proceeds or rather the funds zitaweza kutumika to fast track development in the country. So President William Ruto's Singapore dream remains valid for Kenya, while his supporters wanaendelea kusema that this is a good plan for Kenya because one, ita fast track development. Second, for the sovereign wealth fund ni kumaanisha ni kama tutakuwa na savings for future generation, but the critics continue to say unless there is transparency and oversight is uptight, we will have the National Infrastructure Fund just as another scandal. So let us know what your opinion is down below in our comments. That has been this week's breakdown. Christabel Njeri, and this is PMTV.